Maayad-ayad nga adlaw sa inyong tanan. Ako si January Agnes para ipaabot sa inyo ang historya sang globalisasyon. Balanon naton ang bugos nga detalye sa akong nga pag-usisa.
Good day everyone. I'm gonna report the advantages of time, space, and globalization.
Hi guys, good day. I am Naljin Mandani and I'm going to report the disadvantages of choice of time, place, and globalization.
Subong, kita naman ang mga diskusyon parte sa mga definisyon kag halimbawa sa theory of space, place, and globalization. Nagtunga sa tatlong time-space instantiation, risk society, and time-space compression. Dali kita kag paghibaluon kung ano gid ang definisyon kag ang mga halimbawa. Good day everyone. As we are in a modern and technological world, advancements, innovation, discovery, and many more arise in the world. The examples are wireless technology, smartphones, online trading, electric cars, bullet trains, and many more. The main purpose of those technologies is to make people's lives easier and comfortable. But there is the question, why does those technology are present in most parts of the world? For example, smartphones are present in the Philippines, are also present in the US, in London, in Australia, in Denmark, and in many parts of the world. Also, what are its impact to people, the economy, and the world itself? So let's discover more about the theory of space, place, and globalization. I am Kevin Radiano from Group 4, and we will listen.
History of globalization. A globalization is a historical process that continues to improve, and it had fueled up the start of expeditions such as Christopher Columbus' voyage to the New World in 1492. Traveling in a short period of time for long distances, migrants, merchants, and others have delivered atypical or new ideas, customs, and products to the foreign land. The first wave of globalization had occurred at the turn of the 19th century until 1914. This world phenomena had been described to be the first major period of globalization of trade and finance in cognizant to the continuous phasing of the Industrial Revolution. People had been trading goods since the earlier years. One of its examples is the barter system. As of 1st century BC, a remarkable phenomenon occurred in history that resulted to the sharing of ideas, blending of cultures of people, and trade across vast areas of land, for they are being hauled and traveled from one place to another through the Silk Road. According to most researchers, it is in the modern age which had led the birth of modern globalization. For as more and more people started traveling to various countries across the world, it had led to a quicker communication process among people from different parts of the world, and had been the foreground for major global changes brought by technologies such as robotics and the internet. Example of globalization. First is the trade. The exchange of goods and services between nations. Trade is a feature of ancient societies that has expanded due to improvements in transportations, political stability, and cooperation. Next is the communication. International system of communication began with mail services that were impressively global by the late 19th century. Telephone services were more or less globally by the early 20th century. This made the world feel like it is shrinking, as you could instantly talk to anyone, anywhere at the same time.
So we will discuss about time-space distantiation. Time-space distantiation is an important aspect of cross-cultural variation in a way that people conceptualize the relationship between time and space. Time-space distantiation is a term employed in Anthony Giddens' sociological theory to describe the degree to which time and space are understood as either conjoined or separate in a given culture. While temporal and spatial metaphors have some degree of culturally shaped overlap, for one move in the US, it is called forward, and in China, it is called up with regards to time. The overall degree of conceptual and experiential interdependence of time and space varies across cultures. Time and space may be very tightly interrelated or fairly separated. The degree of conceptual distance between time and space allows for and is facilitated by a set of important cultural variations. Giddens and Harvey agree that this transformation in our understanding and experience of time occurred as a result of revolutions in a way space and time are creatively organized. Revolutions brought about by capitalism as well as scientific, technological, and philosophical innovation in the Renaissance and Enlightenment era. The examples of time-space distanciation are the development of improved clocks and a physics that treats time as a variable to be quantified independent of particular events, allowed cultures to apply greater structure to time and to see it as empty and distinct from human activity. And lastly, human activity has extended across all hours of the day as a result of technological innovations such as the electric lamp, so that major cities may operate on a 24/7 basis. Next, we will discuss about risk society. Giddens decisively emphasizes that today, the connection between man and nature and that relationship must change. Human societies depend on many resources from the natural world, such as waters, forests, flora, and fauna. They are often called resources which can be renewed. Because in preserved ecosystems, they automatically replace themselves. In a risk society, mankind risks its survival, where risks relate to depletion and excessive consumption of resources which are not renewable or are hard to renew, as well as an increase in pollution. Man's effect on climate disturbances presents risk to his life and survival, and it also relates to pollution of water, air, soil, food, radioactivity, and other forms of pollution. Of course, there are also other risks: risk of bioethics, genetic manipulation, and genetic engineering. The examples of risk societies are external risks arise from the outside, which are either traditional or nature. And the examples are drought, floods, and earthquakes. And lastly, manufactured risks arise under the influence of actions of our growing knowledge of the world, such as global warming and climate change. Finally, we will discuss about time-space compression. Time-space compression was proposed by the British sociologist Anthony Giddens, which refers to the set of processes that cause the relative distances between places to contract or to shrink. The idea of a shrinking world is not new, and through technology, it allows people to see that the world is compressed because people from distant places can communicate well at the same time, and they seem to be near to one another. In the long term, this process of time-space compression will produce greater economic similarities across places, but immediately this will not be the case. Rather, differences between places may in fact intensify as the involvement in a world of flows makes the unique characteristic of a place to be a foreground to become more competitive globally. In the end, however,
different places will establish niches for themselves within the global economy, even if there is dislocation in the short term. This seems to be the logical implication of the argument of David Harvey. The examples of time-space compression are the evolution of technology which enables people to communicate through large distances and be able to know and see them through the internet, smartphones, and modern gadgets. And lastly, globalization allows people to become interconnected through the means of modern transportation and can arrive to far places in a short period of time, such as jet planes, bullet trains, and long bridges.
The compression of social time-space through economic activity is the driving force behind globalization. Harvey coined the term time-space compression to refer to the way the acceleration of economic activities lead to the destruction of spatial barriers and distances. Harvey argues that capital moves at a pace faster than ever before, as the production, circulation, and exchange of capital happens at ever-increasing speeds, particularly with the aid of advanced communication and transportation technology. With fewer barriers to the import and export market, the expense of producing goods or offering services would decrease without influencing the overall revenues of organizations. Buyers would benefit from the lower prices and create additional job opportunities around the world. By creating an environment where free trade encouragement readily exists, more innovation, creativity, and engagement would occur at every level of society. The most extreme example of this is how a computer on a Wall Street can transfer millions of dollars in one national currency into another in response to slight fluctuation in the exchange rate, and in the process gain millions of dollars in profit in a matter of seconds. In these scenarios, which happen every day on a Wall Street and other global financial institutions, the time it takes to get from production to exchange to profit is almost non-existent.
Disadvantages. Globalization has disruptive effect to people, most especially because of the increasing inequalities in income and wealth. Also due to the demand for similar products across the globe. A strong demand for it would rise, allowing inflation to occur, placing millions of people, specifically the poorest, to be at risk of starvation. In addition, countries are in race to lower their nation's corporate taxes for it to attract inward investment, which result to the budget cut most evidently in health, safety laws, and limiting basic welfare safety provision for people. Moreover, in the economic aspect, the market economy that transformed the world into a large open market center causes many financial crises that threaten several countries of bankruptcy, and political authorities of developing nations are subjected to pressure from international organizations which mandates the policy to be followed would result to neglecting their rule for the service of the people. Examples. Number 1. Due to globalization, cultural specificities tend to disappear and become uniform. This results in social and cultural impoverishment. For example, people abandon their customs, their way of dressing, eating, and their lifestyle to adopt a universal mood. We risk losing the cultural wealth specific to each regions. Number 2. Globalization tends to generate exclusion, inequalities at all scales, and offshoring increased unemployment rates in developed countries and would cause the exploitation of workers in developing nations. Globalization also favors the exploitation of natural resources, which eventually would be scarce or would run out. This can cause damages to the environment, ecosystem, animals, and also to us. Example of this is when products made in China or any other ASEAN countries are being transported over a very long distance, which result to the consumption of energy in large scales that generates a huge amount of different types of pollutions.
In its simplest terms, globalization, the process by which people, goods move easily across borders.
Primarily, it's an economic concept which include integration of market, trade and investments